Hi everyone and welcome back. This is Sky coming on to talk to you about the full blood moon lunar eclipse in Scorpio that we will be having on May 16th. I will link below in the description box a link where you can find out what time that's happening for you, as it will be different for different time zones. Wow, I'm so excited to be coming on and talking about this topic because I think as astrologers, we live for these types of transits and the vast transformations, shifts, and opportunities that transits like this do bring up. That's what I'm going to be talking about in today's video, what the general significance of this time period is, what this very direct period of like May 16th might mean for you. I'm going to talk about the intuitive messages just of a full blood moon lunar eclipse in Scorpio, and then I'm going to talk about the surrounding astrology and kind of sum it all up into the greater alchemy that the entire big picture is painting. So if you guys get the chance, subscribe to my YouTube channel, hit the thumbs up button, and thank you so much for those of you who check out the Patreon page or give any of the super thanks or join button that is below. It really helps this channel to continue on. I really appreciate it. So yeah, let's dive right into this video. So general messages of lunar eclipse in Scorpio, blood moon. So the essence of a human, or the essence of one's story, is vast and climactic with such a transit. Okay, this means that like this is a character arc for a lot of people. This is a turning point for a lot of people. This general time is like a revealing of truth. There's an X-ray vision. There's an ability to see beneath the facade, and there's an ability to see the truth with this. So this is a very truthful energy. And what I have to say to you guys, just like plainly up front, is like, don't make this a self-fulfilling prophecy. And it would actually be very hard to do that with this transit. But it's very easy during this type of eclipse to find out the truth about someone, to realize that there was a lie, okay, to find some type of material or to find some type of like evidence of something that is shocking. There's an uncovering, okay? There is a sight of an underground or beneath the ground, beneath the surface experience, okay? So this type of transit is going to show us something that we don't usually perhaps have access to, or I imagine that there's going to be like leaks or some type of major revealing to like the public, or even whether this is micro or macro, there's going to be the view under something or the view beneath something. So I think of two things when I'm feeling this type of energy. Like on one hand, this can be the important, vital revealing of information that people need to know for their own preservation in the positive. And in the negative, this can also look like invasion of privacy. So I want to prepare you guys for that this lunar eclipse in Scorpio, as well as the solar eclipse we had on April 30th, which I made a video about. I'll link that below and in the top right-hand corner. But what you can sometimes see with these types of eclipses and these segments or these chapters within the greater nodal paradigm, because the nodes always determine where an eclipse happens. So the axis of which the nodes are placed, north and south node being in Taurus and Scorpio right now, that's where eclipses always happen every year, is on the axis of the nodes. So this particular time denotes that. So we have issues concerning privacy. We have issues concerning knowledge, how something is expressed, and then what it truly is. So the mask, and then who is beneath that, or the way something presents or projects, and then the source of its energy, or the source of the true source, or the true way in which it operates. So yes, there could be very many invasions of privacy. So I want you guys to prepare for that. Like, make sure that you're not just giving over your private information. So this definitely looks like, ticking the box, agreeing to the terms and conditions to the app that then invades your privacy. That type of stuff might be coming up. There could be like scandals coming out in the news. about like apps or about technology, because North Node in Taurus is about technology and money and that type of thing. So it does make me think of social media. I would imagine that during this general time, there will be like headlines or some type of leak of how social media has collected data or how privacy has maybe been invaded, not just by social media, because I mean, I think that everybody kind of knows that social media or technology is already in that territory, so that's not that like shocking to see. But it could come out in other areas, and it might be something even more like personal. Like you could find out that you didn't know it, but like somebody in your life is like spying on you, or somebody in your life. And again, I don't want to like create any paranoia here, because that's also a possibility of lunar eclipse in Scorpio. So if you've not been having issues like that, like don't think that you are just because I'm talking about that. But it is something that needs to be talked about during this type of transit situation. Like, I don't know, watch out what you're putting on social media. You know, you could have like exes or people from your past really like looking at that stuff and understanding what you do put public, or understanding what is put out for anybody in the entire world with access to something to see. So, you know, matters of like the public record, matters of the public sphere come up with a different type of cultural movement during this time. So I think that there's going to be a new privacy culture. Okay, I mean, I'm definitely just seeing that, you know, as a you know, in my travels that I see collectively, like in public and then also online, there's so much movement towards trying to like privatize or trying to protect privacy. And I think that that's going to be important, but it is a bit of a can of worms, and I wouldn't really need to express any opinion on that here, but just to bring up to you, like, be mindful of what you're putting out, be mindful of what you're letting in as well, as these eclipses that we've had are all about this kind of thing. So who has the key to your house? Who has the code to your safe? Who has the password to your accounts? Like stuff like that we really need to be mindful about. And even not even like past the level of physicality. So this could be like, who do you be honest with? You know, is there a culture of lying or a culture of blurring the lines of honesty emerging during this time as well? I think that these current eclipses are indicative of a sort of like culture of dishonesty. And is that like a protective mechanism, or is that an indulgence of sorts? These are good things to be thinking about, because this lunar eclipse also wants us to start growing in new ways. Okay, so one of the most powerful moons, for those of you who are gardeners, as an astrologer, you start to learn a lot about the way that the earth works. And for so many centuries, you know, farmers' almanacs have used astrology or have worked with the moon cycles to understand what time to grow what crops. This is one of the most traditional ways that astrology has functioned for thousands of years. So a full moon blood eclipse in Scorpio, I mean, you could grow something incredible with that, but the moon in Scorpio every month is a wonderful time to plant plants that have deep root or beneath the ground importance. So some plants rely more on their roots or rely more on even growing beneath the ground than others. And those are the ones that tend to do well. Also ones who flourish during off seasons. For example, chrysanthemums planting during a full moon, or this moon in Scorpio as well, would be very prolific. Or any type of vining or thorn producing plants are also very strong. So that's meaning to be a symbolism for also what you might plant in your own life. So during this time, we're asked to create things that work off season, to plant things that maybe bloom when other things don't, or to have a versatility or to have the ability to bloom like chrysanthemums. The energy of chrysanthemum, for those of you who work with plant energy, is really what I feel to be making up the energy. So if you understand like the energy of plants or flowers, roses are kind of they're actually a little bit vulnerable to this kind of energy. They might not do that great, but because they have the thorns, right? But you know, what I'm trying to get at here is that beautiful things that flourish in difficulty or flourish in times of austerity is a lot of what this blood lunar eclipse is focusing on. And because of that, we have to be very expert or masterful at how we integrate in a mainstream or niche way. Okay, this is very important because neither is the thriving way forward now. There are likely to be changes in what is seen as ethical, integrity-based, or viable publicly, and that might be nearly impossible to comply with in a way too. It might be nearly impossible to please everybody. I feel that people are becoming very toxic with this energy too. There's a new culture of toxicity with this type of eclipse pattern. There's a poison, there's a venomous type of sociocultural implementation during this time. And you might see that on social media. You might see people, just saying the meanest things, or even a kind of like violent tinge to the waves of the collective during this time. And this eclipse is going to be hard on people who are being violent with their words, on people who are being violent with their intentions, or so impulsive, or also so addicted, or so driven by the primal reptilian part of the human experience, which is more than we probably know. But it's very important to transcend this and to start to raise into the higher octaves. So we do absolutely see a potential for upward evolution with this lunar eclipse too, or downward. So there's an evolution or de-evolution point coming right in during May 16th time period, where we say, okay, I'm going to evolve up, perhaps into that eagle, aquiline, Scorpio vibe, or I could downgrade as well into the venomous, poisonous, scorpion or snake energy too. So there's going to be both out and about. So it's a great and wonderful time to have taken stock, or yes, still to take stock. I think that this entire eclipse season that we've been going through, April really 20th until about May 20th, that full month cycle, even to June the 1st, and when we get the next new moon around that time, that whole entire eclipse cycle is a shift point for so many people. And we have to think about what we want to source. Okay, what sources we rely on to self-sustain. So one of the things I've written down in a brief outline that I've not been looking at all, I've just been raw channeling here. One of the things I have written down is changes around the ideas of coping, consumption, and then I also near that have written vampiric or even parasitic energy. People who have a vampiric tendency, people who are energy vampires, people also who misuse psychic energy or can't control their own psychic energy or their own impulses, okay, would be at a particularly climactic point of their arc right now. What does that mean? Well, you need to know the health, spiritually, energetically, mentally, of the people around you and the people you're engaging with in this time. I'm seeing that there could be crazy news headlines about not just political or economic stuff, but there might be more news headlines about domestic violence or about really heinous things during this time. So special victims unit stuff here coming up with this eclipse. So it's a time to be safe. Okay, I will really point that out for you guys. People who are mentally ill, okay, could be particularly at an edge right now under these transits. And this is where having cultivated a safe space, or having cultivated a healthy aura as well, where you wouldn't even possibly be able to attract anything like that, or you wouldn't be able to be in proximity to anything like that because of a healthy aura, is going to show and is going to be definitive for a lot of people within how they come through this time and the experiences that they have. So, prayer, anything that relates to auric healing, third eye and crown chakra healing right now, those two chakras are life-saving or just game-changing really for this time. I actually made a video on Patreon already about third eye and crown chakra healing. It was the May Benevolence video, which I'll link below, but I plan to speak when I have time. You guys, I'm pretty stacked up with busy work right now. But when I have time, I'm going to try to make a video about this for YouTube. But I already talked briefly on it on Patreon, so do go and check that out if you get the chance. What I think is that this is a time where we need to have our own vision clarified, and we need to have our own path kind of in front of us. So random detours now are not good, okay? Random pivots, going places that we have no context with, taking off on an impulsive, drive because we're having like a temper tantrum, going off on an impulsive like walk through an area that we know nothing about. Stuff like that is not recommendable right now. And it will be fine like later in the summer to be there, once Jupiter's in Aries by the time we have this eclipse, but once it keeps moving and we have Mars moving up, that's going to really give us a lot more chance to adventure. But here we have almost a need for sanctuary. Here we have a need for protection. Here we have a need for safe homes and safe spaces through which we can make the proper disconnections and disassociations. So this is what I want to talk about next really quickly. I would say that everybody, lunar eclipse in Scorpio, has something that has been standardized in their life that needs to go. Okay, anytime you have any kind of eclipse in Scorpio, like mixing eclipse energy and Plutonian energy is always not just a spiritual or kind of lofty feeling of, wow, there could be a change or a shift in my life. I mean, it's a real change, okay? So some people quit a substance during this time. Some people end a relationship. Some people stop consuming a certain something, Some people cancel an account. Some people cancel a service. Some people start new ones or start different kinds of things. But this is such an empowering transit for people who can say no or quit things that they know are a threat to them. And the all planets direct phase that we had February through April would have shown you exactly what that is. And congratulations to those of you who were able to do it then, or who were able to even make a healthy progress. This lunar eclipse will set into place positive karma as a result of having detached or disconnected yourself from anything that was a threat to you, okay, or anything that was, just a threat to your health, any type of addiction, any type of blind consumption, any type of vampiric energy that is. An addiction, being addicted to something is a form of vampirism, okay? Because that's like a repetitive, like needless consumption. That's like a vampiric activity, when we don't need something, but we consume it anyway. So that's important to see during this time because it is a height of vampirism, a lunar eclipse in Scorpio. That is vampiric energy, definitively vampiric energy. So we need to see that, and we need to see if we're on either side of that, and we need to be prepared to sustain ourselves in a more spiritual way or sustain ourselves in a more human, healthy way, because that will lead us to feel at least a lot more secure and be a lot healthier. And I mean, I think that there's a really good opportunity just for like smooth passage as well for people who have been doing positive work, who have been working with light energy, and who are not so connected to that dark kind of consumptive vampiric energy. That's a great, wonderful to pass into a much healthier, much shinier life experience with this lunar eclipse. But I'm going to go ahead and segue into the greater astrology messages. So what does this lunar eclipse mean in the context of the other placements and how it's connecting to the other placements? So first thing I want to talk about is how Martian things are about to get. Major Mars energy. Jupiter moving into the sign of Aries right before this eclipse, in the middle of these two eclipses, solar eclipse in Taurus, April 30th, lunar eclipse in Scorpio, May 16th, May 10th, Jupiter hits Aries. Jupiter combines with Mars energy. Okay, that's really, really masculine energy. That's really, really strong yang energy. We also have Mars moving to conjoin Jupiter in Aries as well. So take a second to wrap your head around this. So lunar eclipse in the Mars-ruled sign of Scorpio preceded right by Jupiter moving into Mars sign of Aries, and followed on the other side of it by Mars moving to conjoin Jupiter in its home-ruled sign of Aries. We also have Venus in Aries, and we have Chiron in Aries. Yeah, so we have a majorly masculine, Mars oriented energy coming in. And that's going to be off putting for some people. It's going to be like a shocking change because we've had a very hyper feminine, hyper watery, Jupiter, Neptune conjunction in Pisces, Pluto in Capricorn, Uranus in Taurus, Pisces season that we had and a bit of Taurus season as well, leading us to be like very, very cocooned and very delicate within our own energetic spectrums, very complex and beautifully patterned as well, and kind of lilting or kind of singing or working our way energetically through things. And all of a sudden things are going to like slam into like pioneer mode. And the strength of the body, the ability to innovate, the ability to push forward, the ability to be in new territory, the ability to create brand new structures in your life with your own two hands is going to be the way that things move. Also, militarized or war-oriented mentalities or experiences globally, absolutely. Yeah, with this Mars energy, Mars rules war, Mars rules military, and Jupiter also rules military. Jupiter rules military strategy, it rules military philosophy or justification or the legal aspects of military. And then Mars rules the actual on-the-ground wars or the actual soldier culture. So there's going to be a new soldier culture coming through, probably not just within like war zones, not just within like those areas, but maybe completely culturally. And we might not realize that that's happening, that people are becoming very competitive. There's going to be a major competitive streak coming through. And also like self-competition, right? Because this lunar eclipse in Scorpio, it's bringing it to the moon. And the moon, we have to remember, also is debilitated in Scorpio and does not like Mars energy. So there's a conflict there. People aren't really going to understand that maybe their competitive streak with other people or their argumentative streak or their inability to get along with others is just like a self-communication issue. We also have Mercury moving retrograde into Taurus and offsetting this. So Pluto, the natural ruler of Scorpio, also moving retrograde in Capricorn. There's going to be a lot of like ego wounds, I think, in this next chapter. So we have to know how to navigate that, and we have to understand what it means to like also be like hierarchically beneath somebody with an ego wound or above, and understanding like what that means for the way that we have to act. So a transference also of hierarchy, or understanding how we work with other people's interests as well, with the highly scorpionic energy, 8th house energy, other people's money, other people's interests, other people's well-being being decided by like other people. That's also a part of military culture, as well as like blatant hierarchies or extreme bureaucratic types of implementation of hierarchy. That's also going to be coming in stronger with this time. But I don't feel for the majority of people it really affects them unless you're in that type of industry or a career. But what it does mean is that we need to have an explorative traveler's orientation, or even entrepreneurial or willingness to find new territories to channel this energy. So one of the things I also have written down in the outline is channeling this, dark red kind of scorpionic Mars energy that when improperly channeled becomes vampiric, but when properly channeled becomes abundance or ascension capability. How can we channel this in healthier ways? So for example, a shopping addiction or a coffee addiction or any other kind of addiction just means that there's some kind of unchanneled energy. So how can we channel it? Is it exercise? Is it competition channeled healthily? So I don't know, exercise competitions, or the psychic image that I get with this is like medieval jousting. Okay, so you have like the nobles like sitting and observing like jousting, or observing some type of like gladiator culture. I feel that could be coming during this time. That's the psychic image I get for this majorly Martian hierarchical energy. We also have Saturn right at the midpoint, don't we? We have Saturn at 24 degrees Aquarius, settling by T-square the energies of this. So detachment is the key. Detachment is the leverage of this eclipse season and of both of these eclipses we've been through. So the entire key of healthily channeling this energy is to be able to detach and to be able to let go of things, to be able to not be clinging too hard. So the Claude signs, the Cancers, the Scorpios, even the Leos to a degree, struggle a little bit more with this time because they've got their claws in something, or they're holding on to something, or they don't trust that without XYZ in their life that they can function, or that they can get through. That is the deterrent of this time. That is the threat of this time, is being too clinged on to something and then being unable to like accept the new opportunity, or being unable to have room for what you really need or what you really want because you're clinging on to something that just works, or something that gives you a competitive advantage. In essence, like one sword weighing one down, okay? Not needing the sword, having to cross the channel, having to swim across the river with the heavy steel sword, and not needing that, and then getting like sunk by it, okay, because it's too heavy. I see that being a moral, or being a hyperbole for a lot of people during this time. So be careful of what you think gives you that competitive advantage, because it might actually be too heavy for you to carry across, or be too heavy for you to really move with. So with this Aries energy coming in, with this Mars energy coming in, the most truly at the root of everything, what gives you the most advantage, or what gives you the most capability, is the ability to be mobile, okay? The ability to move into new territory, the ability to pioneer, the ability to adapt as well, and to be able to like function in a multitude of places, or to be able to change the way that you operate quickly, because there could be like new normative structures all of a sudden that come in that demand adjustment, like in business, in social lives, in community. We could all of a sudden be like, whoa, all of a sudden I'm existing in a completely different demand, or like your business, like all of a sudden people don't want to buy what you used to sell, like there's no demand for it, but they still want your brand, or they still want your presence, but they need a new product now, and all of a sudden you have to create a new product. So that's hard if you don't have like the capital set aside to create a new product, and you're relying on your stock of like current products that people don't want to like get your business by. So that's going to be happening across the board, like a seeing that the previous investment or the previous creations are no longer in demand, but nonetheless you have them, and it's like, what do I do with them? So then that's where we see like the real entrepreneurial flair, or the real undertaking of like, okay, so I have this situation doesn't have a traditional solution, but nonetheless I have to find one. This is truly almost like Hunger Games vibes, isn't it? Not really, that's a hyperbole again, but it is hard for traditional solutions to work. So the tried and true bureaucratized solutions to certain problems are likely incompatible, or square peg with round hole. Not in all cases, but those people who are light enough to find separate ethical solutions are going to be the ones who like really empower during this time. And then also like the adventure component too, right? With a Mars ruled time, any type of Mars ruled time, especially with Jupiter moving into Aries, which I will make a full video about. Be sure to subscribe below, hit that red subscribe button. Great time to hit a red subscribe button, Jupiter moving into Aries. Anyway, I will make a video about that. Subscribe to be notified when that goes out. But what it means is that the culture of adventure, or the culture of new uncharted territory, is going to be the name of the game. Okay, so the stewards, or the people who have to like keep the traditional functioning, are currently in power and currently doing well with the Pluto in Capricorn and the Jupiter-Saturn-Pluto conjunction we had in 2020, for like the next few hundred years that could even maintain. But that's going to be something that comes up, like especially if you've done well, or if you've like collected things, or you've brought things together, like how do those things stay stable while you go off on an adventure, or while you find new territory, or while you experience new things, because that is what the universe is asking. And that's going to mean a depletion of comfort for some people. I mean, unless you have an adventurer's heart, if you've got a lot of Sagittarius or Aries in your chart, it's going to be incredible. You're going to love it. But for people who feel comfort in repetition, it could be a hard time that this lunar eclipse brings in. And for like the next year with Jupiter in Aries, and it is going to retrograde back into Pisces, so it's not complete yet. So if you still kind of feel like, ooh, I just want the safeguard, that's fine. But once we hit 2023, it's going to be out of the comfort zone for most people, or it's going to be the time to build or maintain some type of new product or new career or new traveling, anything that gets you out of your comfort zone. So I can kind of give you guys a heads up, and this might not resonate for many people before this eclipse, but I really think once Jupiter hits Aries and once we move into the eclipse time, it will more. It's like anything that basically challenges your comfort zone in a healthy, competitive way is going to be a good direction for a lot of people to go. But even I hesitate to say that because, I also take a lot of comfort in the consistent, tried and true. So I wonder how that's going to co-balance, or how that's going to work in tandem with the Pluto in Capricorn, for example, really creating such a generational aspect of security desire. And to leave this chat on a positive and hopeful note, because that's also a big key of this time, is not succumbing to fear, paranoia, darkness, consumption, vampiric energy lines, because those are very easily accessible right now. So we have Neptune forming a trine to this eclipse point, and we have Pluto forming a sextile. They're not quite exact, but they are in orb. Contingent upon detachment or relinquishing that which we know to be a detriment to us is a completely drastically empowered path for a lot of people. I mean, the Neptune trine gives you like this incredible spiritual significance to whatever you're good at. So everybody has a talent, and talent will get you everything during this time, especially if you have a charisma, or if you have any type of like feeling of devotion to your craft, feeling of devotion to what you want, or what is also combinative with well-being for community or for other people. I mean, it's like a perfect recipe for a lot of people, especially if you have Scorpio, Pisces, Capricorn, Taurus, even to a degree Cancer or Virgo, any of like the earth and water signs especially. But it will be followed by the fire and air signs as well. I mean, as Jupiter moves into Aries, I feel like people who are fire and air dominated are going to have a little bit more of an adventurous, like singular perspective to this, while earth and water dominated people are going to have more of a like collectivist or like group oriented or popular support idea to this, which are two necessary sides of life that need to come together, right? So we need to see a coming together of the masculine and feminine elements in order to conceive a greater world. So that's kind of what's happening here, and that's beautiful to see. I hope that makes sense, and I hope that I've articulated that right. I'm trying to, at least. But that's kind of what I see, is like really a conceptual energy coming up in the oncoming months, and it relies on masculine and feminine energies having the chance to honor their own independence. And what I'm trying to say here is like being able to grow in their own way. So people being able to grow in their own independent way, cultivating their own talents, cultivating their own contributions, and then grouping with other people and being known for what they can do, being respected for what they can offer, and growing. So growth, all right? I made recently a video about the Mercury and Pluto retrogrades also happening during this time, and definitely check that out. I'll link it below and in the top right-hand corner, regarding how fertile this time is, how much you can grow something. Like for those of you gardening or participating in agriculture, wow, really beautiful to see. Things can really take off. Things can really grow and bloom through getting that recipe and getting that alchemy of the soil, alchemy of the fertilizer correct during this time. And that's not just happening on the earth plane, but it's happening in relationships. It's happening with people. There is a very fertile chance, and it's very likely also that anything that you create, contribute, or focus on during this time will grow a lot, and you'll probably be known for what you do during this time. All right. And the oncoming years, especially, and that's connecting to a larger, like even up to like 2025 time, this about 3-year period that we're in is very much cultivating a sense of self, and not just within oneself, but starting to project that out to others. So the idea is for that to be something that you love. Okay, so what's difficult is, becoming known for something that you don't want to be known for, or growing something that you don't really believe in. Okay, and I think that that's pretty rampant right now, and I think that there's so much chances to get that stuff right and to start to create what you love now. And I think with the Mars archetype being so grand and expanding so drastically during this time, team orientation will be important. So people who are great team players will also shine, and that's going to be a vital part of moving forward as well. So solitary people, how can you embrace more teamwork? And it's not like necessary, but it is hard to be holding up the world like Atlas on your back. I've been seeing that for such a long time. I mean, that just means 10 of Wands. That means for a lot of people, 9 and 10 of Wands. And I've been talking about that since about 2020. So, don't freak out about it. But I think that teamwork and delegation and people with common cause can really be well-oriented during this time and come together to work in a different way, or there's a different way of producing a team result, or maybe different tenets arising around working within a team or working within a group that haven't really been considered before. So it's definitely a new creative time for like new philosophies around teamwork, new philosophies around independence and self-sustaining as well, because that's going to be something changing up a lot and really focused. I mean, it's a win-win situation for everybody. Everybody has something to gain during this time. Everybody has something to win, whether you're a self-employed, self-sustaining person, whether you're a group player, whether you're a team player, whether you're a traveler, whether you're a homebody. There's something for everybody coming up here. And I think that this lunar eclipse in Scorpio, because that's what this video is about, is going to really pivot or change things in a way where we can better understand where it is that we want to be, which side of that equation we want, and not needing to necessarily consume other people's stories or consume other people's energy and detract from ourselves by comparing. So comparative bias or comparative problems, and this is an issue of social media culture as well. Not needing to see like, okay, I want this for my life, but I see that other people who have wanted that have struggled or stuff like that. And then basing your ideas around that, around the comparison to other people is going to be something that you can overcome during this time, and something that we need to overcome during this time. Also, just touching once more on the highly energetic and sometimes unseen nature of the sign Scorpio and that archetype. This might not be the most cut and dry or obvious change here. Also, I think that the majority of people, depending on what they've been doing for the last few years, need to change from being super giving or super receiving. Okay, so basically I saw in 2021 that people were moving to like really hyper focus in one type of energy dynamic. So being the person who only gives, like the person who only works, the person who only contributes, the contributor, the worker, the producer, the person who shoots energy out of their body, okay, for other people or to come back to them, however that's focused. And this is kind of deep energetic jargon here. Or being the person who always receives, the person who takes from another person, the person who relies on another person financially, the person who is constantly on welfare, constantly unable to like produce or give, or like I saw basically complete cutouts on either side, and a societal movement towards like I only produce or I only receive. And the thing is, like, we need both, right? We need a balance there. So either I think with this lunar eclipse, people will make extreme shifts, like someone who's been producing will now be like receiving, or vice versa. And then for people who have been extreme on one side or the other, oftentimes they do have to swing to the other side, or they have to start implementing things into their life that give them another side. So for somebody who's been completely financially dependent on like their family or their spouse, now's probably the time to start a business or to flesh out your career more. If you've only been fleshing out your career or doing business or producing or creating or, in that energetic place, now's probably the time, I don't know, to invest or to think about marriage or to think about things which can give you more of a passive flow. Okay. Passivity versus activity. Which side of that you've been mostly on for the last few years, especially in the entire year of 2021, this lunar eclipse might denote a shift point there. Or it might indicate a chapter of events that does switch that point or does change that up a little bit. And certainly the emotional feelings, okay, because this is the moon, this is a lunar eclipse, the feelings, the reactions. So being in Ten of Wands, constantly producing, constantly working, we might feel really burned out, okay? And be like, I can't do that anymore. And then also being in total passivity, like totally reliant on another person, we might feel really bad. Like I have no autonomy. I actually have no control over anything. This person owns me, okay? We see the negatives of being either too productive or too reliant. Okay, feeling that's going to be hard for a lot of people, like feeling owned by another person or institution because they don't have control over it, but they're reliant on it. That ball and chain, that devil archetype in the tarot, is very strong with this eclipse, and because it's trying to break those shackles and it's trying to catalyze people to really get more balanced and to get more at a center point. Okay, where they're not totally reliant on anything, because it's the same exact energy, whether you're in total passivity or total activity, whether you're overproducing or over reliant, that's the same energy. Because believe it or not, like people who overwork are owned by their work, or owned by the institution that facilitates that, or owned by the source of that energy, even though they have the illusion of being like in control of it because their production or their output is creating a contractual bond with that institution, so they feel like they're more in control. It's the same exact thing as like the institution of marriage, or as like poverty, because it's like not if they quit working, or they feel if they quit producing that they're not going to meet an end. So it's the same exact feeling of not being autonomous or not being self-owned or self-capable. So we need to see resolutions here with both of these. The solar eclipse in Taurus was all about that too. And this lunar eclipse in Scorpio is going to be the feeling or the emotional side of that. So what is hopeful, very, very hopeful, is people seeing a light at the end of the tunnel, or people seeing the way to a stronger healing. Because, the solar eclipse that happened on April 30th was right on that Saturn-Uranus square. And to me, that is what the Saturn-Uranus square of 2021 was all about, was this whole issue of like output versus reliance versus sustainability, okay? And also the gauntlet to get oneself out of certain unsustainable causes was what that year was all about, and what we're still kind of dealing with. And these eclipses are really, I think, changing that narrative and showing the truth about it and showing like what it's taken. And for some people, it's positive. It's like, wow, I can actually just make a very small adjustment and it's perfectly sustainable. And I invite you guys to take this time to understand what sustainability looks like in your life. Also to understand what is an illusion, or what is an addiction, what is a source of being vampirized as well. So like constantly spending all of your money on gambling, constantly spending all of your money on things you don't need, and then also then not being free or being reliant on your job in a much more extreme way because of certain addictions or certain coping mechanisms that are connected to spending. Again, this is the Taurus Scorpio axis. It's going to be connected to money in some way. And so that is where we're healing, and that is where we're experiencing changes now. And for some people, it's more on the emotional side, and then for others, it's more on the material side, as it can be either, as those things are intimately connected. Materialism and emotionality, poverty and abundance are very connected to people's feelings of well-being. So feeling of well-being, that's changing with this lunar eclipse in Scorpio. And I hope you guys stay safe. I hope you keep things secure in your life. Security focus is really good right now. And integrity, security, humanity, making sure if you have any authority over anybody that you're not being harsh or unaware of what they're giving. Because also, like, for example, employers who psychologically create an environment that makes their like workers or their employees go into this mode of like hyper production when it's not necessary, and stoke this dynamic. It's a difficult karmic place to be. But at the same time, there's an ability to find the perfect balance, or the ability to find at least a certainly much more sustainable way forward. So I encourage you guys to use this time and this energy to let yourself shift into those more sustainable paths forward. So anyway, everyone, I hope you enjoyed this video. It is kind of a darker topic to work with, but it's hopeful and it's transformative, and it wants us to be further balanced, further healthy individuals, taking a health focus, taking a security focus, taking a also detachment focus, with Saturn being right at the square point pretty much. Yeah, that's going to be where the magic is. And keep tuned to my channel. I'm going to be posting a lot of different videos that will be really great. I think it's a wonderful time for psychic or healing oriented work as well. So definitely let me know how you're doing below with a comment. And if you haven't checked out my Patreon page, I post a weekly premium content every week over there, and it is a great value. So come check that out if you would like to help this channel to function. I so appreciate that. And as always, just your likes, comments, and subscribes are a wonderful way to support as well. So have a wonderful, wonderful experience of this eclipse. Keep safe. Keep that rose quartz or even black tourmaline or obsidian around, and work with prayer, work with safety. And through that, I think that you will have a wonderful upward healing evolution. So have a wonderful time. I will talk to you all soon. Bye.